Welcome back to another WhoScored.com Premier League preview. This week, you join Ben and I as we discuss Chelsea versus Arsenal. This is the last Premier League fixtures before the international break, which I'm sure you agree, Ben, is very much boo. But Chelsea versus Arsenal is very exciting and is quite a nice way of finishing this sort of block Premier League games. You excited for it?
I am, yeah. I know you say boo about the international break, but there's just so much football, isn't there? I mean, it's nice to have a bit of a reprieve, but you know, us in a week's time, I'm like, oh, I wish football was back. But yeah, I mean, what a game to end the game week on. Chelsea Arsenal's always a huge game. It's always an enjoyable one. So hopefully it lives up to expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I have to be careful because I thought that Man United versus Chelsea last week was going to be all singing, all dancing, 10 goals each. I mean, there was a penalty. That's quite exciting, but the goals didn't quite come. So I'll try and contain my excitement for the Arsenal game in the hope that then means there is loads of goals. But right, let's stop talking nonsense and talk about the game. We've spoken a lot over the last few weeks when we've spoken about Arsenal, about their injuries, and absentees through suspensions and things like that. And the big injury that's been, consistent throughout all of those discussions is Martin Odegaard, who looks like he might be fit. I don't know if he'll play from the off. I don't know if he'll make any appearance at all. But if he does, that could be massive for Arsenal, right?
Yeah, absolutely huge. I mean, came off the bench very late on against Inter. Arteta said that everyone's with the squad is fit to play. So you imagine Arteta might just throw him in from the outset. You know, they've really missed him and his creativity. He's second for key passes from open play for Arsenal with 1.7 this season, behind Saka with 2. And third on that list is Jurrien Timber with 1.3. So it kind of says it all about how much they rely on those two to create the chances, particularly from open play. So having Odegaard back again, particularly as Arsenal have looked pretty sluggish and the final third recently, is massive.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The sluggish going forward, and they have looked like that, haven't they? I've spoken to a few Arsenal fans this week that seem to suggest that Arsenal not running out of ideas, but struggling to come up with new ones when things aren't working. So Martin Odegaard definitely can impact that and provide a lot more creativity for them going forward, which they'll want and they'll probably really appreciate actually against Chelsea. One player though who might have to sit out is Declan Rice. Do you think that will be a big blow if he's absent?
I mean, usually you'd think so. Rice hasn't been playing to his usual high standards this season. The issue is that Merino is also struggling with illness, so you kind of need one of them to come back in, just to play that left central midfield role, assuming Odegaard's going to start. So Rice this time last season would have been a huge blow. This time around, not so much, particularly if Merino's fit. But if they're both out, then you have to think what's Arteta going to do in there? He's going to throw Jorginho in against Chelsea, throw caution to the wind, put Trossard up front with Havertz if he's fit too. I don't think Rice missing out is that big a blow for Arsenal. Obviously, it is a blow because he's still one of the best in his position in the Premier League. But if you'd said this 12 months ago, you would have been like, yeah, definitely, absolutely massive blow. But this time around, the performance levels have dipped from Rice. So probably not, but again, that is ultimately dependent on Merino being fit too.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's like one player comes back from injury and then like one goes away and then a couple of still question marks around. So Arteta's problems aren't automatically solved just by the return of Martin Odegaard. There are still some things that need looking at, which makes for an interesting squad selection for this game, and I'm sure we'll all wait eagerly for that. We spoke last week about Chelsea. We already mentioned that before they played Manchester United. And in that game, Robert Sanchez didn't have the best 90 minutes. He obviously gave away the penalty, which Bruno Fernandes converted. And he hasn't really lit up this season, I wouldn't say. How big an impact do you think I don't want to say he's had a terrible season because that feels a bit harsh, but is he good enough for this Chelsea side, and is he negatively impacting them at the moment?
I mean, Maresca says he has all the ingredients to be a top-level goalkeeper, and at 26 years of age, he's still very much in the infancy of his goalkeeping career. The issue is that when he makes mistakes, you can tell that he kind of dwells on them and he overthinks it, and then it impacts his just general authority in the box. That naturally leads to the defence sitting deeper. They don't have the same trust in the goalkeeper, and just invites pressure on them on the Chelsea defence. In terms of being first choice, I mean, Chelsea have been struggling to get that first choice right since Courtois left. They seem to have stumbled upon it with Petrovic last season when Sanchez got injured and was dropped. Well, wasn't dropped, sorry, when he was injured out of the squad, and Petrovic came in and did really well. But then he's gone out on loan to Strasbourg. Jorgensen didn't look particularly tested against FC Noah on Thursday, but a clean sheet breeds confidence. I mean, Maresca's not going to drop him for a game of this calibre, in my opinion, but he silenced the doubters with that penalty save against Bournemouth and the clean sheet. But since then, it's just kind of reverted back to the Sanchez of old. If you're a Chelsea team that's hoping to challenge for the top four, challenge for the top honours, he isn't the goalkeeper you want between the sticks. If they go with Jorgensen and he, drops a clanger, you think, well, okay, maybe Maresca is justified to continue Sanchez. But at the moment, it doesn't look like Sanchez has the calibre, doesn't have the capability to just maintain that consistency in goal.
Yeah, you're right. It does feel like it's a position that Chelsea have really struggled to nail for a little while now. And even when Sanchez was brought in, no one was suggesting it's a bad signing, but I don't think anyone was like, oh, that's a number one for the foreseeable future. So it is quite interesting. Of all the players in the Premier League, he ranks second for errors leading to goal this season. Only Ipswich is. Arhanet Muric has had more with 3. So that just goes to show how, well, he's made 2 clangers that have cost Chelsea goals, which if he continues to do so...
I really hope you messed up Muric's name badly and just get absolutely torn to shreds in the comments.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, mate. That's very kind of you. I hadn't actually planned to say it, but then I found out this stat.
off the cuff, then. Off the cuff, it's decent.
Yeah.
Decent effort, I think. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have done any better, so credit where it's due.
Well, let us know how it's pronounced on Twitter or in the comments, and I'll happily take any flack. Talking of flack, Arteta seems to be getting away with it a little bit, given the results that Arsenal have had over the last week or so, a little bit longer than a week, I think, have not been overly positive. Do you have any comments on that? And also, I'm going to just ask the next question as well. Do you think Chelsea are the best team to play when you have that kind of, or you're in that run of form?
I mean, it's tough to say whether Chelsea are the right team to play. They are a bit more open, which probably plays into Arsenal's hands. They kind of without Odegaard in particular, they adopted this kind of sit back and remain compact, then kind of try and nick a goal. It worked against Tottenham, but you look at their last 6 away games, they've won 1, and that was against Preston. Against Newcastle, they really struggled to break them down. Against Inter, who are predictably compact and resolute at the back, they struggled to break them down too. I think they had 5 shots on target across both games. This though brings back to the point about Odegaard, just how important he is. They probably would have stood a much better chance against Newcastle and against Inter had he been fit, which is why I think he'll probably start on Sunday. I mean, Arsenal's possession average is nowhere near the top. I think it's around about 50% or so. So they are adopting this game plan where they sit a bit deeper and they look to hit teams on the counter or try and score from a set piece, which has been brought out of necessity on occasion when they've been reduced to 10 men, or since August when Odegaard's been out. I think this one is probably going to be... I mean, they have a decent record at Stamford Bridge anyway. They're up against a Chelsea team that are going to play a bit more on the front foot and a bit more open. So it probably does work in their favour to play this Chelsea team rather than playing a team that will sit back and defend.
Yeah, I do agree with you. One thing I think that kind of adds to this question, are Chelsea the best opponents to play, is that last season Arsenal were fantastic at the back and ran a really, really tight ship. We haven't really seen that this season. Now, I'm not saying they've been leaking loads of goals, but they've conceded 11 this season, which is a much higher rate than they were conceding last year. And Chelsea this season are looking pretty strong going forward. They rank 3rd for goals. for goals scored, sorry, with 20. And I just think Chelsea are starting to pull together now. Like, they were quite sporadic last season, I'd say, but they are quite a good side now. And I think they can cause Arsenal problems, particularly cause Arsenal's backline problems, which, as I say, has not been as strong as it has been last season in particular. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. But that brings us on nicely then, Ben, to our score predictions. I'll let you go first.
This is always a tough one to call. I mean, Arsenal do have a great record. Well, yeah, a pretty great record at Stamford Bridge. I think they've won 3 and drawn 2 of the last 5 league meetings at Stamford Bridge. And I think the return of Odegaard is such a huge boost. I think they're going to scrape a draw and it'll be 2-2.
Nice. 2-2, that's decent though. At least there's goals. I'm going to go for something slightly more boring. I think Arsenal will scrape a win. I think I'm going to go 2-1. I wanted to go 1-0, but that's too boring. I'll go for 2-1 because I have just said that Chelsea will cause Arsenal's backline issues. So I think they'll probably get on the score sheet. So 2-1 for me. Right, we'll end this week's show, as we always do, with a bet builder each. We are using the bet builder comparison tool on WhoScored.com, where you can compare your bet builders with the best bookmakers in the UK. You can clearly see in a matter of seconds which bookmaker is offering you the best price and therefore the best value, so that when you win your bet builders, you win the most amount possible. Ben, you go first, mate, and show us the value.
Yep, so I've gone for 4 selections this week again. I've gone Wesley Fofana to be carded. He's been yellow carded more times than any other player in the Premier League this season with 6. Noni Madueke to have over 1.5 shots, which will have landed in 3 of Chelsea's 4 home appearances this season. Bukayo Saka to register an assist. He's top for assists in the Premier League this season with 7 and has registered at least 1 assist in 3 of his last 4 Premier League appearances against Chelsea. And finally, Thomas Partey to commit over 1.5 fouls, which will have landed in his last 3 Premier League appearances. I've got odds of this through Paddy Power with 39.41 to 1 as the best price, and the worst price as 14 to 1. So a pretty big differential there.
Very nice. Yeah, that does sound pretty good, and the stats to back it up are right there. So if you fancy any of Ben's selections, you obviously don't have to listen to every single one. That's the beauty of the Bet Builder tool. You can swap, you can remove. Mate, the world is your oyster. It's just a great tool. Go and use it. Let's have a look at my one then. There's a couple of similar picks, but I've actually taken different players, but similar stats, I suppose. 3 selections for me. It's slightly shorter than Ben's. Starting with Cole Palmer over 2.5 shots. So that's just shots. That's not shots on target. That could be any pot shot from 40 yards to right up close. Over 2.5 feels a little bit high, but he averages 3.2 per game so far this season. The equal most of any player in this fixture, which you may ask, who is the other equal most? And that is Bukayo Saka, who is my second leg to have over 2.5 shots. So Cole Palmer and Bukayo Saka over 2.5 shots each. And I'm rounding it off with Moises Caicedo booking. He's averaging 2 fouls per game. He's averaging more tackles than anyone in this fixture. The fouls is also the most in this fixture. So he feels like a safe play. You are right, Fofana seems to be picking up a booking every game. So as you say, if you prefer Ben Shout there, you can take out Caicedo and replace with Fofana. As I say, you can do whatever you like. That comes in at best price of 13 to 1, which is a little higher than my usual, but is as short as 5 to 1 elsewhere in the market. So more than double if you take the 5 seconds out to go to WhoScored.com, go on the match centre for Chelsea versus Arsenal and put in your selections, and you'll get all of that value. As always, if you are placing bets or listening to any of our tips or bet builders, etc., please do so responsibly. But as I say, go ahead and use the tool, enjoy the game, and Ben and I will probably be back after the international break. So we'll see you then.